Hello and welcome to the Holo Herald podcast. This is episode number 16, I think it is. And we're streaming live from our usual location at about 8 o'clock at night Mountain Time. We want everybody to come join us on our stream, so if you guys are available Monday nights, come and hit us up. It's probably one of the best ways to get a hold of us. We have a great time. It's probably the best way to have interaction back and forth between our users and everything. It's really great. I just want everybody to come and have a great time with us. Anyways, so last week I mentioned we were looking for people to have on the interview. We would like to have people have on the podcast and to interview them. That is still open. We actually just got in the final stages of finishing the forms and everything we'd have to be. So if you guys are interested in that, if you guys think you have something to offer to the podcast, or if you just want to have discussion, just a quick little 30-minute segment where we ask about what you're doing in MR or the cool things you're bringing, or just some cool topics you guys want to talk about live, go ahead and leave a comment below or hit us up on Twitter at the Holo Herald, or just email us. You can find our email on our YouTube channel. So that would be perfect. We want all the people we can possibly get on there. So yes. A couple more notes real quick before we get into this, just to get them out of the way. We started doing show notes or timestamps. So if you're listening to the pre-recorded version, all of our cool topics we talk about will be right there down in the description with the timestamps, so you can click them and go right to that topic. Just in case you're not so interested in blockchain or cryptocurrencies and you just want to hear MR stuff or whatever we happen to be talking about, you can find that there. As always, the link dump will be down there too, so any links we talk about during the show, you'll be able to find right there. If we miss any of them, leave us a comment and we'll drop them right in there. So I guess let's get right into it. Let's start the Holo Herald podcast. Today I'm joined by two good friends of mine. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, boys.
Hey, it's Austin. I've been gone a while, and I'm glad to be back again with the Holo Herald podcast. We got some interesting topics to discuss today. Possibly a Magic Leap killer, maybe? I don't know. We'll find out.
And it's me, Alex, once again with the Holo Herald, and I'm just happy to be on here again. Like Austin said, we got some super exciting stuff, and I'm very excited to see where this conversation goes. So let's get into it.
Okay, so I guess let's go ahead and jump into it. I think we've got quite a few news stories. Let's just do a quick recap of the past few weeks. So June and whatever the month is before June have been pretty big hitters for technology in general. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah, a lot of conferences, a lot of new technologies have been coming out, a lot of just interesting things happening with these big companies. Yeah, it's sweet. So
we started with AWE, so the Augmented World Expo. That was just barely like last month. And then we moved into E3, and there's also been some other mixed reality and augmented conventions around. There's been a lot of drops. This summer started out with pretty big bang. Do you guys think it's going to continue on throughout the summer?
I think so. Like you said, with AWE and with Google I/O, and now with E3, like we've seen a lot of exciting things. So I'm pretty positive that throughout the summer things are just going to get better and better. That's what I'm hoping for, at least.
Yeah. So a lot of the cool things have been happening, and there's been kind of like some trailing releases since those got. All the major hits were there. E3 was not as impressive as expecting. We had one day last week. We talked a lot about E3, so we won't do much of it this week. But the last day didn't have like anything from MR related content. So there's not really much to cover, but there were still some trailing news stories and some pretty big things that happened last week. So I guess we can just jump right into one of them. You guys want to hit me with one of them?
Yeah. One article that stuck out was it's one titled, "Can Microsoft Keep Up with Apple in AR and MR?" And the first thing that it says is how the Microsoft HoloLens is not a consumer version is not expected to be released until 2020. And that surprises me a little bit, just because over the past few months alone, we've seen a big improvement from all of the apps Like people are developing more and more quality applications, and it's been exciting for us to see. But for them to say it's not available for another 2.5 years for consumers, that kind of surprised me, and I'm curious to see why that is.
Well, it says there's only 150 apps, HoloLens holographic apps available currently on the Microsoft Store. So I think we got a ways to go in the App Store.
So my bad. So is that correct? There's more than that on the store. How old is that news story?
June 19th.
June 19th. So it's fairly recent. I don't know what month we're in right now. We're in June. So that came out today. That article came out today.
Yeah, that came out today. The thing that, and Alex Kipman said that there's 150, but Eric, you and me counted. There are over 200. I'm pretty dang sure.
Let's go ahead. I'm going to actually find that link really quick because it's actually pretty hard to find on your computer. So we have the link saved. And for your convenience, we'll just drop it in the description. And I'll drop it in the chat right now once I find it. Let me pull up pinned conversations. It took us a long time to find, didn't it?
Yeah, it's like buried in their website.
Yeah. So we actually had, I guess I could talk about my Microsoft experience with trying to figure that out. I could talk to that in a minute. Let me get this link up on here. Okay, drop this here. Okay. It's loading. 237 apps.
See, Alex Kipman wasn't even close.
I mean, that's
Alex
pretty great.
doesn't even know.
The new apps look pretty fun for the week.
Bless his heart.
The new apps look interesting. Full View, Holo audio visual experience. That was the first app I ever wanted to make for the HoloLens, was an audio visual experience. Holo smartwatch, Holo race car, Holo rain. Those are the new apps for the week. So we're hopefully, maybe not this week, but hopefully soon we'll be starting Reality Check, where we'll start a new series on our YouTube channel called Reality Check, where we'll talk about all the information compacted from the previous week in MR, AR, tech in general into just a quick 10-minute video, because I know people are always curious about the new apps. And have you guys noticed the influx of apps, how many there have been that are coming out recently?
Yeah, I remember when I first started, there were only there weren't even 100, and new ones came on every 2 or 3 weeks. But now we've noticed that every week 3 or 4 come out religiously, consistently, so to speak, which is kind of a big improvement alone from what it was even 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and it's just this huge flux too. I mean, we're getting 6 a week. It's impressive. So I'll just share a quick little story from a couple weeks ago that I probably could have shared earlier. First, let me drop this before everybody loses their mind on the stream. I'm going to drop this right. Okay, there it is. It's in the chat for you guys. If you guys want to see the link to all of the apps and everything like that, that's the best place to go. And so you might be wondering yourself, when is that updated? You don't want to check back every day, and you don't want to see. So we were wondering that ourselves, because we wanted to start this new series, and we wanted to tell everybody all the new apps, and it's good for our app previews. We need to know what's coming out, when it's coming out, what's out. And so we wanted to find the exact date that's updated. So we went on the greatest search for information we've ever had. What was it? How did we first notice it? Did we just notice, Alex? I remember I asked you, I was like, can you please watch the store and tell me when they come out? What did you find out when you did that?
Yeah, so when you first came up with the idea for Reality Check, we wanted to see all the new apps. And I remember we hopped on once, and all of a sudden there were 6 or 7 apps that we did not see the day before. And we're like, well, wait a second. These just magically appeared overnight. And that got us thinking, maybe there's a specific night when Microsoft releases all the apps that are ready to be pushed, And so this kind of took us on a journey for about 3 or 4 weeks, trying to figure out a day in consistency. The only problem is some days we'd forget. So we'd find different apps on different days, like Friday, we'd find them. Saturday, we'd find them. But they'd been there for a while.
Yeah, and you can't check. When you go into, let me preface this, you can't go into the app. If we open up HoloCube right now, which is a new app. It doesn't say anywhere a release date anywhere on it. And I even went to like the metadata. I tried to find everything I could. I went to like the publisher's website and stuff like that. You can't find when it's released. And we're not talking about like when it's released on the store, but when it's added to this holographic specific page. That's what we were trying to find, because there's so many apps released every day to the store that it'd be impossible to narrow just the holographic ones down. But Alex is absolutely right. We would forget like 1 week, and that would mess up our entire previous tests that we've done. So I got fed up with it, and I was like, I'm just gonna ask him. So first thing I did is I opened up a support ticket with Microsoft, and I just did the typing first. I was asking them, no answer. Nobody could answer my question. They passed me around a few different people at
But
Microsoft
didn't you get
support.
offered a free subscription to a OneDrive?
Oh yeah. Yes. Well, free for like a month.
Oh,
and then
okay.
it would start charging me. So I got no help, but I got advertised too. So exactly. So I got no help there, which was a little weird. I was like, okay, but HoloLens is a small, portion, and holographic store is a small portion. And one of the problems is there's a language barrier, which I don't think the support people, their first language was English, so I was trying to get help, and it was not working out very well. So then I was like, just give me a phone number to call, please, to who I was talking to. So they gave me a phone number to link to. I got there, I called someone, and I got with like 2 different people on the phone. And I'll admit, they were pretty quick. I wasn't on hold very long or anything, but the struggle to communicate what I wanted, I was just like, it's such a simple question. It's like the made for HoloLens section on the Microsoft Store. I just want to know when that is updated, or when the apps are updated, or when the apps are released to that page. I just want to know that. No docs, no anything. Okay, support. They passed me around a few different people, some people in the HoloLens department, some people in the Microsoft Store department, and I couldn't get any help. So finally I had to open up like a specific ticket, like a request ticket with the HoloLens team, like specifically for HoloLens support. So I open up a ticket with them, and I wait a couple days, and they get back to me. Really, really prompt response. It was great. The guy was very helpful, but he kept saying, they're just released when they're released. We don't pick when they're released. The developer picks when they're released. And I'm like, that is not true. Because every Tuesday, it's every Wednesday night, right?
Wednesday, yeah.
Every Wednesday night at around like 10 or 11 o'clock our time, Utah time, Mountain Time, all the apps get added to this made for HoloLens page. And he wouldn't believe me. He was like, no, that's not right. They get to this, like, and I'm like, I even linked him to the page. I was like, look at this page Tuesday night, and then I sent him a link to it. I was like, look at this page now. And by then he'd ended the ticket. So it wasn't much help. But I'm surprised by how much of a struggle that was. I wonder how it is. Do you guys think it's that bad for all HoloLens support, or do you think it's a really niche question?
I think it was a pretty niche question. Like, it's kind of confusing to word it in a way to make it understand over like an email or something like that. It's just hard communicating that, I think.
I agree that it's a very peculiar question. Not many people want to know what exact date each and every HoloLens app for the HoloLens store is released. However, I feel like that's kind of an important thing for Microsoft to know. Just like we as YouTube content providers, it's very important for us to know the exact minute that our content gets released.
And developers. Developers really need to know that.
Absolutely, yeah. So for Microsoft to not be able to know when their apps come out, that is just random, that surprises me a little bit. Doesn't quite worry me, because obviously it hasn't caused an issue, but it does surprise me that nobody knows at all what it is.
Exactly. For these developers, there's like, let's see, last Wednesday it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 apps were released. For those developers, that's pretty important to know when it's coming out. And I tried looking through the developer support. I tried looking through everything. There were similar questions on the support place, but I don't know, I just couldn't find it. I guess it's just me complaining. Support's never as great as you want it to be. I just found it interesting that they have a whole website dedicated, because the fact of the matter is since I have a background in programming, I know that someone wrote something to say, hey, every Wednesday night at this time, update this page with all the holographic apps. Someone wrote that. And I'm very surprised that there's no documentation anywhere of that, or that he didn't get clearance for that. Because, I mean, why Wednesday night at 11 o'clock are they all getting released? I don't know. It's a very niche question. It's just interesting that there's not much docs to it. And I find that in the Holo developer Slack. Maybe I should have just went to the Holo developer Slack. Maybe that would have been a good idea.
Yeah.
You think they would have known?
Maybe. I mean, you can always ask them.
Yeah.
It might have been a lot less painful.
Yeah, it's true that. So I totally forgot our original news story that we were on. What was it again?
It was comparing Apple's new AR technology with Microsoft's technology, and which one's gonna win.
So the AR kit versus the HoloLens SDK? Is that what they're talking about? So AR kit doesn't have a device with it, right?
No, my understanding is it uses already like iPads, iPhones, all the Apple devices, and it just uses like the camera for the viewfinder to see your artifacts, the virtual artifacts in your space, and so there's no headset with it.
Think Pokemon Go, how people were just able to seamlessly download the app and use it on their phone. That's kind of how iPhone and iPad are going to be able to do AR with this new release. It's all it is downloadable apps, and you can do all sorts of stuff with it.
So I've seen some videos from it. It actually looks pretty impressive what they're able to achieve. There's some first person shooter videos I've seen, and what other like shopping thing I saw, I can't remember exactly. But it seems really interesting, to be honest. I mean, it seems powerful, and if it's anywhere near as easy developing for ARKit as it is for the HoloLens, I mean, we can expect some really great things to see it. Are you guys surprised that they haven't announced a device or anything, or do you think they're just waiting on that?
Well, my understanding is the devices are already out, like because it uses the technology, the iPhones and the iPads and that. So they don't necessarily need an individual device. I mean,
I'm saying, do you think there will be like a Meta or a HoloLens?
I'm sure
type
there will
device?
be in the future. They even said something about some sort of glasses in the near future. I can't remember what day.
Apple said that, or the article said that?
The article said that about Apple.
Interesting. Yeah, because I remember they announced ARKit, but they didn't announce any hard devices, right, for it. I mean, does that surprise you guys at all that they're not trying to enter the device sphere? They're more entering the software sphere?
Well, I mean, there's a lot more developers for iOS, and so it would make sense that they would go that direction, so they can build these apps and whatnot. Because Microsoft, Alex said there was only 150 apps in the App Store for a holographic, but Apple, they're going to have a lot more developers, and they're going to be able to crank out a lot more applications for their AR kit.
What I'm thinking is perhaps it's just Apple's way of avoiding the bandwagon, because like everybody said, I feel like when they saw Apple's release, like everybody else is working on AR and MR, and Apple is just barely releasing this. Like we've already have the Microsoft HoloLens, the Meta, the Magic Leap, a whole bunch of other like no-name headwear for mixed reality and artificial reality. I feel like maybe Apple realizes they can't catch up to everybody else, so they're taking a different tactic or a different route for their own artificial reality. What do you think?
So do you guys think the impact of... Oh, yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I definitely agree that they're behind the game a little bit, but Apple's always been good at like biding their time and just holding out and waiting until they're ready to attack, you know what I mean? Because they know they have the market share. Even if they don't have the technology market share, they have the user market share. They've built the lifestyle brand. They've built the cult.
Yeah,
so,
they have more of an ecosystem established.
Yeah, so if someone already has their iPhone, or iPad, they're gonna go with that, you know. Whereas Microsoft doesn't really have an ecosystem besides their PCs, you know. So they don't. I don't think they're rushed to get anything out, and I think it's a good thing they don't feel rushed. I think it'll give them time to, you know, decide what they want to get because they're smart because they don't see anybody converting right now. There's not really teams built in the MR sphere, which is kind of cool right now. There's not the Meta people, there's not the HoloLens people, there's not, well, I don't know about the Magic Leap yet, but there's not the Magic Leap people, whereas with VR, there's like the Oculus people, and there's the Vive people, and with phones, there's the iPhone people and the Android people. There's not really teams built out in the AR sphere, so there's not really a rush to get in there. Do you guys think, you think AR's sphere will be a team-free zone? Like, everybody just kind of wants the AR ecosystem. They don't really care what it is. Or do you think it'll be a very big team player kind of device?
It very well could be. But the thing that's let me gather my thoughts real quick. What's confusing to me is what Apple's trying to do. However, in this article, it says how Apple is a disadvantage with for example HoloLens, because people are claiming that the HoloLens is more comfy, and that having an iPhone or iPad for a viewfinder is more clunky, and that it's speculating that people aren't going to like that as much. That they would prefer, if using artificial reality, they would prefer a headset.
So you mean augmented reality, right?
Or yeah, augmented reality, I'm sorry.
You're good. So yeah, I think everybody will. I think we talked about it a lot last week with the good enough headsets, and how that's going to have an impact on AR and MR in general. I guess I'm just talking more like future devices. Do you think there'll be like the Apple people will hate the Android people, and the Android people will hate the Apple people for AR devices, or do you think it just won't really matter? People just not care?
It's an interesting question. I think with all technologies, everyone's going to choose their sides, choose their poison. But there's got to be some cross compatibility. I would imagine in this new like metaverse world that we're coming into, because there's going to be like advertising and stuff like that for it, and I think cross compatibility would be a thing that would be focused on. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No, you're getting kind of what I was leading to. There was on the Holo Developers Slack, there was I don't want to say a debate, but a discussion about if there will be like a one world apps portal or a one world augmented reality universe, you know what I mean, where it doesn't really matter what device you'll have access to all of the app stores or all of that, just because a lot of the apps will be so ubiquitous with everyday life that you don't want someone using an Apple one and then having to switch to an Android. Like, it won't be cross-compatibility issues like you're saying. Do you guys think AR is a realm for that? Because VR has kind of screwed themselves with that a bit, because Vive apps don't work on the Oculus, and Oculus apps don't work on the Vive, which is a big downfall. I don't like when you're thinking about getting a device, you also have to pick out which app store is the best for it and stuff, which I think, do you guys think that could hit? Well, first of all, what do you guys see the future of the App Store on like HoloLens and stuff like that, or MR devices in general?
To go along with what you guys have been saying about compatibility, remember Microsoft recently announced that you could now program and use Unity on an Apple product, for example, like the Mac or the iPad. And I feel like I would hope and speculate that they are going to keep this kind of compatible relationship into AR. I think they've realized that the only people losing here is Microsoft and Apple, these big companies that aren't trying to help each other out. So I feel like if this works out and compatibility proves profitable, I would think that all these companies like Android and Apple, like into the AR and MR experience, there will be cross-platform compatibility, because that's kind of what they stressed these last couple of months at all these showcases and all these expos, is we are compatible. So I would hope that they keep this going with AR and MR as it evolves, like into the future, like what you're asking, Eric.
So in the future, we need to create the mass web store, the mass app store that is for all devices. There's going to be some big company out there in the future that will do that, I'm sure.
The Steam of AR, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that would be cool to see.
Yeah, or at least, like, I think there could be, like, specifics, kind of like gaming a little bit. Like there's HoloLens exclusives, So I hope it kind of goes the way of gaming. You know what I mean? Where right now, and apps have been pretty good at it now. Like normally, if there's an app for iOS, there will be an app for Android. Or if there's an app for, a Windows phone, it'll be on all cross platforms. Or even if there's a web app on your online, normally there's a downloadable version of it, or something like that. So that's kind of the way the ecosystem's been going. It just kind of seems a mess to have so many different stores and to have programmers have to program for so many different applications. I mean, because each one uses their own proprietary, well, not necessarily proprietary, but like Android uses a different language than iOS does, and web uses a different language than all those do. So if you want to hire developers, you have to hire developers for all of those, or you have to build out the apps one at a time, and while you're doing that, you're losing a lot of money and you're using a lot of stuff. But with games, it's kind of the same thing for games, but they all come out at the same time, you know what I mean? So I think you know how like Xbox has Xbox exclusives and PlayStation has PlayStation exclusives, but normally you can get a game for any other console. I kind of hope it likes that. Do you guys think it'll end up like that?
I think it could be that they'd keep things going, like you said, like Halo and Gears of War are for the Xbox, and there's like Killzone and Little Big Planet. I don't know. I'm not a PS4 gamer, but I feel like maybe for the Oculus Rift there'll be something that Vive doesn't have. But Vive will have stuff that Oculus Rift doesn't have. However, both have plenty of games that are playable for different ones, I hope that made sense. It made sense in my head. But what I'm trying to say is I think it'd be fun, There'd be, because like it's kind of a big deal. If you want to fire off shots, you can tell somebody who likes PlayStation that the PlayStation sucks. And like instantly, things get heated and people are trying to defend why they play PlayStation or why they play Xbox. So I think it'd be interesting to see if something like that happens with Oculus Rift or Vive or whatever other products there are out there. I'm just naming the two biggest ones right now.
So, Austin, that brings us to kind of another discussion. Didn't you read there was a quote about Project Scorpio or something like that? What were you reading earlier? I heard you talking about it.
Oh, Project Scorpio, they just released a video about it, the Xbox One X, as it's called.
Oh yeah, my bad.
And it's pretty sweet. It's got super awesome hardware in it, and it is cross-compatible with all the way to the Xbox original games, cool. Which is pretty awesome to go and relive the Halo 1 days, and I'm excited for that. Yeah.
But what was their quote exactly?
Let me find it.
Yeah, what will you talk about that? Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Well, you look that up. I think it's interesting though to have this competitive mentality because I definitely have it. I like my Android phones over my iPhones, but when I think about it, it's like, why do I really like my iPhone over my Android? And it used to be about freedom, about security, about store choices, about all of these different options, but now both of them have come to such like a comparable zone that besides like standards or what you've gone with before, there's no really other deciding factor. Like if I had not the new iPhone, I'd probably be just as happy as I am with my S8. I don't think I'd be like losing out on anything, and I can't tell people that are on an iPhone that they're losing out on anything specifically. And I think it's mellowed out quite a bit. Have you guys seen it kind of mellow out, the competitiveness over the past few years?
A little bit, yeah. I remember back in, the Stone Ages when everybody just had Xbox and PlayStation 2. All of a sudden, there was like a lot of hype and a lot of build-up for the Xbox 360, or PS3, I mean. And it was a big deal. And it stayed a big deal for a very long time, even after both devices came out. But then all of a sudden, like Xbox One and PlayStation 4 have just kind of came and went, and now the Xbox One X is coming out. Eric, do you know how long ago has the Xbox One been released?
I think we looked it up last year. It was a lot older than everybody thought. It was like 2012 or something, I want to say. Xbox One release date. 2013.
2013.
So it was our junior year at high school. So it's been around for quite a while, actually, surprisingly.
But only 4 years. But think of the gap between. Because it was like 2004 or 2005 that the Xbox 360 first came out, didn't it?
Let me see. Xbox 360 release date. 2010. Wait, no, that's Metro 23. Why the heck is it bringing up Metro 2033?
I don't know.
When did the Xbox 360 come out? 2010, unveiled the Xbox 360 redesigned from the ground up. Oh man, there's like a billion different versions. Xbox 360 original release date. December 10th of 2005.
Called it.
So yeah, you're exactly right. So that was about 7-8 years almost.
From 2005 to 2013, yeah, it's about 8 years, and then only 4 years from the 360 to the One, and now 3 years. No. Yeah. 3 years from the Xbox One to the Xbox One X, which I don't really like the name, by the way. That's a lot of X's.
Yeah, it's not a very good choice, but they've been kind of not being very intelligent the past couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
What was their quote, Austin? Did you find out their quote?
Well, it's the quote about gamers, right?
Yes.
Okay. This might offend some people, but it says the best console gamers are the best gamers across every device. And it says, which not everybody sees that, but we see it in the data.
Does it have like a source? What does that even mean?
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Thanks, Austin. Wait, what was the quote one more time? Can you read it for me? Because that's a pretty bold statement to make.
The best console gamers are the best gamers across every device, which not everybody sees, but we see it in the data.
Interesting. I wonder what that means. I'd be curious. Go ahead, Austin.
What he says after that, though, is right after that he says, so if you're a great console gamer, you're probably playing a lot of PC games. You're probably playing a lot of games on your mobile device. You're just a gamer, and you want to play on every device. So, I guess...
What does that have to do with anything?
No, what I'm trying to say is, I think the best, that title right there, they're just trying to get people's attention to, like, oh, really? Is that the case? Because I don't agree with that. I'm pretty good at playing on the console, but I'm awful on a PC. So I would just kind of disagree with that and want to read what he's saying. What I think he's trying to say is, this is the reason, like, the hardcore gamers probably aren't just faithful to a console. They're going to have other platforms. They're going to play on their PC and their Xbox. And this is kind of their excuse, their reasoning behind having this cross-play compatibility, because what they've announced is, say like I'm playing an Assassin's Creed game on the Xbox, and then I have to go, and I'm somewhere else. I'm away from my Xbox, but I have my laptop. I can, with my laptop, play Assassin's Creed, but not just play it. Play where I left off from when I was playing on my Xbox. And not only do that, but I can play on my PC, multiplayer, like cross-platform. So people on Xbox Live are going to be playing with me on my PC, and other PC gamers are going to be gaming with me and everybody else on Xbox Live. So this is really, really cool for me to think about this. Like, thing like Minecraft. Like, everybody plays Minecraft, but on different devices. Now, they're merged together in one central location. People on Xbox can play Minecraft with people on the PC. So I think that's why they're doing this, to bridge the gap between the console and the computer.
You know, I think that just reinforces, now that I think about it, that just kind of reinforces the discussion we had about cross-platform AR devices. I mean, think about that. I mean, think about co-op experiences. What if me and Austin walk into the same room, and I have an Apple AR device, and he has the HoloLens, but we both want to see the same holograms? You're going to have the same app store, or you're going to have some sort of... Because there's no way we're going to miss out on that shared experience. With a phone, I mean, you could just show someone your phone, or it's not that integral reality experience. I guess it's kind of hard. This is kind of a hard to compare to anything, but you know, it's like, let's say, like a LAN party. Like obviously, LAN parties aren't as I don't know how to explain what I'm saying, but I mean, we're not going to miss out on that shared experience just because we have different devices, right? So you're going to have some sort of some sort of shared OS. That's a really hard sentence to say, right? Wouldn't you guys see that? Because you guys aren't going to want to miss out on the same experience, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Because, you know, the more time goes on, more and more people are going to have these mixed reality, augmented reality devices. And Eric, if I want to show you something on my HoloLens, like right now, I would have to take it off and have you put it on, and you'll be like, oh, cool, that's way cool, thanks for showing me that. And then you'll have to take it off, and I'll have to put it back on. But if if there's this shared experience OS, like you keep talking about, that would you'd be able to use it on your Apple device, and I'll be able to use it on my Microsoft HoloLens. And that kind of avoids the clunky feeling to it. It's a lot more streamlined and a lot more convenient for everybody.
I mean, it's going to have to be that way, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah, it is. Like, I can just see it now. It would be really, really, really impressive to just, I don't even.
Like, we're both working at a whiteboard, you know what I mean? And we're both going to have to work on the whiteboard, an AR whiteboard, you know? Let's say we're both working on an AR whiteboard. No matter if you have a HoloLens or if I have a Apple device, we're going to have that shared experience, right? I mean, do you guys think consumers would cut us off from that experience just to make profit margins? Or do you think they're going to realize that we need that shared experience? What do you guys think?
I think they're going to realize that because, like, you know, once you've released a device, say like, for example, a phone, my phone. No, that's a bad example. People replace those all the time. The HoloLens.
Okay.
Once I buy the HoloLens, I am not going to buy a HoloLens again until it breaks or a bigger and better one comes out, which probably isn't going to be for another 3 years. So with this, like, once the consumers have their product, they're going to quit buying it. But they're going to have to keep buying the software for it and the programs and the apps and the games. And I feel like all the software and stuff like that the device provides, people buy more of than the actual device. So with like Microsoft opening up their stores for other products, you know, people are going to start buying through Microsoft those products from that other company. And Microsoft pockets a little bit, and the other company gets their cut because it's their product, but everybody is still getting paid.
Yeah, it's going to have to be that way because, I mean, I'll call it now, that will kill AR. If people can't see the same holograms just because they have a different device, that's going to cause a lot of problems. That's like if I couldn't text you because you had an iPhone, you know what I mean? And there is proprietary stuff like iMessage, you know, but the fact of the matter is we can still text, we can still use Google Hangouts, we can still use that. So, that's going to be really interesting to see how they navigate that. I don't even know. That's really interesting actually to think about too, because they're gonna have the shared experience. You know, like we're all gonna have to be able to see the same holograms in real time, no matter what. Interesting. That'll be really cool to see how that unfolds.
So do you guys think, like, with this cross-compatible AR platform, do you think hardware is gonna get to a set point where there's not gonna be an update on the hardware for a certain number of years? Like
with consoles, kind of.
Yeah, like because consoles, we just talked about it, how long it takes to update those. Like, is it going to be like that for like the HoloLens or your phone or whatever?
I don't know. That's a really good point because I was just trying to think about those like shared experience because there's going to have to be standards and stuff put in place. Like, you know, like, oh man, that's really interesting to think about because hardware is going to have to be the same. I don't know. That's really interesting to think about because not everything's going to use the same sensors. Not everybody's going to use the same light field. Not everybody's going to use the same everything. And developers aren't going to want to develop for every single device. I mean, some of these apps are really hard to make. They're not going to want to have to make it for every single. So you're going to have ooh, that's so interesting to think about for some reason. Oh wow, I mean the future, because there's going to be different devices. That's a given, but we're going to have to see the same things because talk about divisiveness. Imagine if, I mean, right now all our phones can do basically the same thing, but imagine if we couldn't even see the same holograms, or someone's holograms are way better than others. Interesting. Do you guys think this is something the open market will decide? Like everybody will just have one device, or do you think there's gonna be like one device that reigns supreme and everybody's just gonna use that, or do you think it's going to be everybody's gonna have different devices just like we do nowadays with phones?
Well, the thing is, like, if we're gonna have different devices, like they're all gonna cost different amounts, and why would I go for a super expensive one when my really cheap one does the same thing?
Back to the good enough experience. One thing that I think about, Eric, when you say like there'll be, I kind of see it as a battle. If the future comes and there is no compatibility, I feel like all the diehard Apple users aren't going to switch over to Microsoft just because it's better. They're going to stick with their Apple augmented reality device, whereas everybody else is going to, they're going to find their own favorite, which kind of scares me. I don't think that's quite a good idea, but it's definitely a possibility if it comes to the fact that nobody is willing to share their software.
Interesting. I mean, we're so divisive right now. I mean, companies are, like Apple refuses to work with Google, and Google refuses to work with X, and X refuses to work with Y. I mean, interesting. I don't know. This will be an interesting, like a transcendence in technology. Hopefully, like a transcendence of open sourceness, a transcendence of, of sharing code and sharing like platforms and hardware and everything. Interesting to make this technology grow. I think that's really cool. Speaking of devices and future devices, didn't we have an article about like the release date of the consumer grade HoloLens?
Yeah, this is back to the first article where it cited that the consumer grade HoloLens wouldn't be for another 20 years. They talked about how Microsoft has announced that
wait, another 20 years? Wait, what was it?
Sorry, 2020. Sorry, a lot of 20s going in my head right now. But until 2020, we're not going to see a consumer-ready Microsoft HoloLens. But what Microsoft is doing to try to speed this up, they are foregoing working on their second generation HoloLens, and they're jumping straight into the third generation, the phase 3 of the HoloLens. And let me find where it says that. I'll give you a little bit more information. Give me like 6 seconds.
Okay. So I think the first estimations, since the HoloLens came out, the first estimation was like 2017, the second estimation was like 2018, then 2019, and now 2020. It seems like it's keep getting pushed back, which normally I'd be worried about. Just like, oh my god, they're not getting ready, they're not moving the technology along, they're not progressing. But for the HoloLens, I feel like that's totally fine. I mean, don't you guys feel like 2018 would be? I mean, we're already 2017. Don't you guys feel like 2019 would be too soon for another device? Because this one costs $3,000 and there's only 250 apps for it.
Well, I don't know. Like, we don't know Microsoft's plans in the future. Like, we see new apps every week. They're coming out quicker and quicker, and I don't know. I guess time will tell.
I mean, but don't you feel personally that it would be too soon? 2019 would be like too soon for a new device?
I'm not sure.
You don't know your own feelings on this topic?
Okay, I've found it. To pull Austin out of the limelight here, it says, according to an international company memo, Microsoft's planning a more aggressive and consumer-facing push of Windows mixed reality and HoloLens via a dedicated mixed reality marketing team under the direction of some bigwig. So obviously they're seeing this, that something needs to happen and fast, or people are just going to kind of lose interest. So now they're kind of making an official marketing team, and they're going to kind of focus more on what the users want. I'm kind of excited to see what they'll come up with. because they've kind of talked about like late 2019 we're going to start seeing what they have, and then around 2019 2020 we're going to finally get it.
Interesting. Like as a consumer grade one.
Yeah, as a consumer grade Microsoft HoloLens.
Interesting. So I think Magic Leap, to bring them over into the conversation because we always have to, I think, did they say their device that they're releasing, is it for developers or is it for consumers? Have we heard anything about that?
No, nothing that I know of. Austin, what about you?
I haven't heard anything either. I know they wanted developers to apply, but they also, I mean, they gotta be with that much funding and stuff. They gotta be like looking to release to consumers, I would think. But they're not gonna have any apps in the App Store. So I think HoloLens, I think the technology is still really relevant. Like I still put it on, and it's still super futuristic. I feel like personally, 2019 is still too early for another edition. And I think 2020 is probably like right around the perfect time period. What do you think, Alex?
Well, as of right now, you say like that 2019 would be too early for another device, but you got to remember, like there are like a select few, you know, that 1%, so to speak, that actually know about the HoloLens. Everybody else, like your neighbors, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, they have no idea what is going on around them, you know? Like, heck, me, for example, Eric, had you not told me, hey, I've got a HoloLens, hey, I'm doing this with it, do you want in? I would have, still to this day, have had no idea that there is such a thing as mixed reality, you know, the space race, so to speak. So I feel like, you know, 2019 isn't that unrealistic, because the other 99%, like, this is going to be new to them in 2019.
Exactly. It feels really underground. Don't you guys feel like that with the HoloLens community, everything? You guys can answer this as our users and watchers too. This feels like a very underground community, like we're like making dubstep back in the 90s or something, before dubstep was a thing, or, you know, and it like there's this community revolving around it. It like, you know, do you guys feel that way?
Yeah, a little bit. That's what it feels like, because just like with all these, like with like big apps, like for example on the HoloLens Slack, like it's just everybody trying to help each other out, giving each other tips or counsel or ideas, and people like working off of each other. And it's really cool to see that. It's like you said, Eric, a couple of days ago, like big business hasn't come in and tainted it quite yet.
I like when we did the MR Hangouts app preview, and you were talking with all these developers, and we've all heard their names before, and we know them. Like it's really close community. I feel it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so that's really interesting that you mentioned that. Isn't that kind of funny that the first time we met with people in the MR community, it was in an MR space? Isn't that just kind of like a testament to the technology in the community?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic that the way you put it that way, you know, everybody in the MR community sees each other in an MR atmosphere, you know, like everybody had their own avatar, and everybody could see each other's avatar, and you'd walk around the room or stand in a circle and talk, and it was really, really cool to be a part of that.
That's so weird to me. That's so funny to think about that. Like, we didn't meet him in person. I guess we talked to him on Slack maybe a little bit, but first, like, actual face-to-face was that considered face-to-face? Do you guys think that's considered face-to-face?
There was a face with a voice, so I feel like maybe not 100% face-to-face, because I still don't know what these people look like, but I was able to look at their avatar that spoke like them. So I'd say it was pretty close, you know. It was very interesting for what they're trying to go to. But I think people need a little bit of an introduction as to what we're talking about.
Oh, okay.
Just because, like, this hasn't reached the store yet.
Oh, the MR Hangouts?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so anybody else want to take it away, explain it?
So
take it, Austin.
So MR Hangouts is this application where people from all over the world, in any country, can join, let's call it a chat room, and you enter this space, and you're a bunch of avatars, and you can communicate with each other. You can walk around, and it's basically like you're talking face to face with someone, but they're clear across the world. It's pretty cool. Check out our video.
Yeah, we just released a video of it. That's probably the best way to explain it. I have a hard time, like, I've tried to tell a couple people about it now, and I have a really hard time explaining it without just pulling up the video and showing them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, anybody listening, if you still have any questions, just check out the video. We'll put it down in the links below, because it's quite the experience and quite a sight to see.
It's the first of its kind, you know. Like I don't know if we necessarily broke the news on it, but yeah, shout out to this team for building it. But so I guess that brings up an interesting question. What do you guys think it's like considered face to face? Would you guys consider holoportation face to face, or still not quite there?
Like, are you talking about the YouTube video holoportation?
Yeah. Like yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because maybe not at the very beginning when the guy's talking to his daughter, because his daughter can't see him. She can just hear him over the intercom. But when they bring on the other guy and he has a HoloLens and he's in another room and they can talk to each other through that, that was pretty dang cool. I would count that as face to face, which is really, really cool. Really awesome video, fun to watch.
Yeah, when they gave each other a high five, that's pretty crazy. What's
yeah,
cool
I'd say that was face to face.
What's cool is MR Hangouts is like a couple steps away from that. Austin, do you think that's like considered face to face?
The YouTube video?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's definitely, like, because they're pretty much there, other than them not physically being there, you know?
Wow, that's so weird. What do you think your parents would say? What do you guys think your parents? Do you think they would consider that face to face, or do you think that's just to our adaptation of the technology to the technology?
I showed that video actually to my dad, and he was pretty astounded by it too, and he actually embraced it. So I feel like maybe not necessarily old people, but people in general, I think are going to realize this is really cool, and that I'm pretty sure they'd say it was face to face. I mean, aside from Skype, like this, you can't get more face to face than holoportation.
Oh yeah, dang, that's so cool. I'm so excited for that. Which we still have no release. I mean, we still have a couple things we're missing. Like Minecraft has been rumored on the HoloLens for God knows how long, and holoportation came out around the same time as the HoloLens, and we still have not seen anything for them. I mean, Sean and his team is like the first people to actually give us something tangible by this. It kind of sucks that we're missing out on that. So, I was thinking, I thought this was a pretty good idea. I was going to tell you guys this. So, we just released the app preview for Galaxia, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I thought that would be really freaking cool to play in MR Hangouts.
So you're saying combine them?
Yeah, okay. Galaxia and MR Hangouts.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool idea, because
hit your button.
That's actually a really cool idea, because Galaxia, like, it's kind of like a 3D game board, and you can't just stay in one spot to play. You have to walk around. So imagine you in the MR Hangouts lobby, so to speak, and you and some other person are playing this game. Like, you get to watch them walking around, kind of pacing around the game board. You
can see them as, like, they move. You can kind of, like, anticipate their attack. Like, if they start moving over to one side, you could be like, oh, they're going to attack over there. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh, yeah, exactly. That would be a lot of fun. Like, being able to play HoloLens games in MR Hangouts. Oh, I think that'd be revolutionary.
Imagine like a 5 or 10 people in Galaxia. Like, there's like 10 different colors, and everybody in the room is trying to compete with each other, and there's like one great winner. I mean, that'd be awesome.
That would be insane, yeah.
I'm down for MR speed chess.
MR speed chess? So you can actually... So do you think... I think Galaxia is a great example. Do you think that's something that could fit... is better in MR or VR? Like, do you think Galaxia... lends itself I felt like Galaxia was a perfect example of how to utilize MR in a cool way. Don't you think?
I agree, because with VR, you're kind of restricted. You can't move around. However, with MR, like, the game board stayed in one spot, and I was able to walk around it and be able to get a better point of view based on where, my troops were and where the other character was attacking. Like, I could get up and move around. And, like, the way it's set up is, like, it's clustered together, so you can't see very well from one point. Certain places of the board you can't see well from certain positions that you're standing. You have to move around. You can't just sit in one spot. So with VR, I feel like it'd be restricting, and that putting it with mixed reality was a very, very good call.
Yeah, I really agree. I think it's probably one of the first apps that I've seen that kind of forces you to utilize MR in a way that you wouldn't be able to in any other sphere. Like, I mean, you couldn't do that on a mobile device. You couldn't do that on a console. You could maybe do it in VR, but it lends itself much better to an MR experience. You know, like my go-to used to be Fragments, but I guess Fragments you could do VR and it would still be pretty cool, you know. You could still do in a game, you know, it's like a traditional game. But I think Galaxia is the first one. Are there any other game apps for the store that you guys think utilize themselves just extremely well to an MR environment?
Oh, what was the Slime in Time? That was impressive. Like, when it mapped over the table and stuff and made it like a mountain, like, I thought that was really good use of mixed reality.
Oh, that's a really good one. That's a really good one. What about you, Alex? You try all the apps. What's like your favorite MR experience on the HoloLens?
Oh, geez.
That couldn't be attained like any other way. That's just a sole MR. You know, it's like something that's like hits you. It's like, wow, that is not doable with anything besides MR or the HoloLens.
And nobody's going to judge me for my comment?
Oh, I'll judge you. We'll all judge you. The internet will judge you.
The Smurfs The Lost Village game.
Wait, are you serious?
What? Now, hear me out.
Smurfs?
Hear me out.
What? No way. That's like a 5-minute game and it was broken.
I'm not done talking yet. Give me a second. So, when I first downloaded this game, it didn't work. This was like 2 months ago. But they were able to update it and get it to work again. And I'll be honest, I was a teensy bit disappointed. The whole gameplay lasts about 2.5 minutes. But it was it was actually really cool.
What is it? So you're going to have to explain it to us, because none of us have tried it and nobody's seen a video on it.
Yeah, so basically, at the very, very end, my character ends up on our table. Maybe in our videos you've noticed this wooden table that sits in the middle of our room. My character was on one end, and on the other side of the table was the target, like the scroll of paper that I was trying to reach. And there were rocks, and there were hills, and there was stuff in the way. And then there's a character guarding it, guarding the scroll. And I had to make it from point A to point B, from one end of the table to the other, hiding behind the rocks that they'd placed and jumping over the obstacles that they'd placed to get to the scroll. And, you know, if the person saw me, they'd like throw fireballs at me, and I have to run over to the other side of the table and hide behind another rock. And it was really, really cool to be able to see that.
So what specifically about Smurfs and the MR experience is it that like set it apart for you?
Just how I was, like, it was just sitting there right in front of me on my table. You know?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like, it used the table as like the mountain or the cliff, which is really, really cool. A lot like what like a Slime in Time did. Turned my desk into a volcano and the center table into an enormous mountain. What this did was kind of turn it into a game board, and I had to control my player from one end of the table to the other. And, you know, even though it lasted only 2.5 minutes, it was still pretty dang cool. So I would hope that they keep up with this and keep releasing something else, and that you people quit judging me.
Well, for your Smurfs games. No.
Another thing that I think is really awesome about MR like experiences is when we sync it with the Xbox controller. Like, flying that helicopter around the room was really awesome, and I can't wait to see like a Mario style game that uses your environment. Have like a little character that you jump around from your table to your couch or whatever. I think that'd be awesome.
No, yeah, that's great. I think that's kind of what everybody's been waiting for. Is everybody wants an RTS that they can play in their living room, which is kind of what a Slime in Time did, but with like a controller where you can have like all of these different controls and stuff like that. That's great. Ravi in the comments says, in the chat, he says Jaywalker was nice. What do you guys think about Jaywalker? Do you think that's an experience that is like could be replicated in other games, or do you think it really, really lends itself well to MR?
I think it really, really lends itself to MR, because like I said, once again, with VR, you can't move around. Your movements are restricted, but with mixed reality, with the HoloLens, you had to run around literally for your life, you know, so you could stay alive. And, anywhere else you can't do that. Because, Eric, you remember, like, when we were at the intersection at the four-way, like, you flipped around, and there was a truck that instantly ran you over. That scared you a little bit, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah, you even annoyed some YouTube commenter because you kept moving around so fast.
Yeah, dude, you gotta keep your head on a
Oh,
swivel.
yeah.
So, but with a VR experience, at least a tethered VR experience, that would make it very difficult. Like, you couldn't jump around and be all crazy, kind of like I was, you know what I mean, without running the risk of, how many times I spun in a circle in 1 second, would have wrapped me up in the cord, I would have tried to jump, and I would have ripped the whole computer off the wall.
That would be funny.
know?
That would not be funny at all.
So I think Jaywalker is a great experience, and I think that's one of the biggest changes I've seen in the App Store personally. Is a lot of the beginning apps were just like cool, it's like, wow, I could do this on my phone, wow, I could do this on VR, I could do this on my Xbox, on my computer, blah 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 blah. But I think the new apps are finally starting to get it. They're starting to like utilize that MR space creatively in a really cool way. And the Unity competition just wrapped up. Well, I mean, wrapped up submissions and are through the first stage. And they said they had over 1,000 app submissions for their competition, which is pretty big. I mean, I think it's like $100,000 prize or a $10,000 prize or something insane like that. So I mean, I could see why 1,000 people. But can you believe that there's over 1,000 apps that got submitted to that?
That's very interesting because there are only a little more than 200 apps currently released in the store. I'd be really excited. I would hope that many of these apps that were in this competition get published. Maybe they didn't win, but I would hope that they get published because I'm sure, as we've seen from other competitions, some of the apps are really, really entertaining and a lot of fun.
Exactly. And I mean, could you imagine if we just opened up the App Store one day and there was 1,000 new apps on the App Store? Granted, most of them probably wouldn't be that good, but it'd be really cool to see. I'm excited to see the winner because out of 1,000, and there's gonna be one winner with like $100,000, it's going to be pretty revolutionary. Those are more like usefulness based and like helping like translate or blind people or whatever. They're more use based, but those are still cool apps. Ravi just said the HoloGate uses the power very well. That's true. What do you think about that, Alex?
HoloGate, yeah, that was really, really interesting because it was cool to be able to like poke a hole in the wall and be able to see what's on the other side. But it didn't get really interesting until I did it in the floor. And like out of the corner of my eye, if I noticed that my foot was about to step over a hole, I would subconsciously pull it back. Like even though I would have landed on floor, it still gave me the illusion that I would have like stuck my foot through the hole. And it, was a little bit trippy at first. I do remember that at the very first, like poking holes through the floor. Yeah, it was kind of a trippy experience that you would not be able to get anywhere else.
Yeah,
so far.
There's that psych study they always do where they have a baby and they put them on like one end of a table and through it they like painted what looks like a hole through the table. And the baby, I couldn't remember if the baby would crawl right over the hole or if it would just stop even though it was painted, you know what I mean? And they couldn't tell the difference between it. I kind of had a similar experience with that. I let one of my little cousins try Robo-Raid, and she was really excited. She was like playing with the ballerinas on the holograms app, and she was having a blast there. But as soon as the first robot came crawling out of the wall and flew at her, she ran over to me and tore off the HoloLens, and she's like, "I'm done with this." You know what I mean? And that was like my first experience where I was like, wow, like to me, I could tell that this is not real, but to her, that was real. Like there was a real robot, like when you watch your first 3D movie and you're waving your hands in front of your face trying to whack the things. This is like that, but it's actually there. That's so exciting. Have you had an experience like that yet, Alex, where it was like, you just had to, kind of that childlike experience where you have to wave your hands in front of you with a hologram? What's the app that sold that the most for you?
The app that maybe not just like wave my hand through it, which would probably be the very first time I even picked it up and placed a hologram. That's I walked up to it and moved my hand around. But probably the most.
Or if you had to give it to a new app, let's say you're giving it to someone new and you wanted to give them that experience, what would be your app of choice to like really sell that experience for them?
Really sell the experience?
Like, let's say we're doing a top 5, which we're probably going to do now that I thought this. Top 5 apps to try first on the HoloLens. What would your number one be?
Obviously, some of the bigger ones like Fragments and Robo Raid, but then probably Holo Maps.
Okay, Holo Maps. I wouldn't have thought of that one. That's a good one.
And Jumanji, just because when that raptor started chasing me out of nowhere, like I subconsciously just like started running as fast as I could. Obviously, I kept running because I thought if I kept running, I wouldn't die in the game. But at very first, when this thing like starts shrieking in my ear and starts trying to chase me, and like the HoloLens goes off and there's blood on the screen, that was kind of overwhelming for me, and I'm not very proud of how I reacted and how quickly scared I got. But that was pretty dang not something you could get anywhere else. Getting chased by a dinosaur
in your house. What about you, Austin? What's one of your apps? Like if you were going to give it to somebody to try for the first time?
Like Alex said, definitely some of the bigger ones like Fragments or Robo Raid, but this is a tough one. There's so many different. Oh, I'd probably do the floor is lava. Like that one's always super fun to play because it's such a classic game, and to just add that mixed reality element to it, it's just like, whoa, the floor is actually lava. It's a pretty fun game.
That app does something great. That app, you hit the head on the nail right there. It's like, I'll just word it a little bit differently. You know, what that app does is, because everybody's played The Floor is Lava as a kid, right? But the difference was you used your imagination. But this time it took your imagination and made it real. And I think that kind of solidifies it for people. It's like, whoa, everything I did as a kid that was like my imagination, I can now really do. You know what I mean? I think that's a great example. The Floor is Lava. Well, what other ones? What are some of your other guys' apps that you guys would show people? I'm just trying to think of like very MR-centric apps that are great. Because I used to do, like my first one I would always do was Holo Galaxy or Galaxy Tour or whatever it is. And then I would let people try Jenga. And then I would put people in Fragments. But now there's so many new apps. I'm trying to think of my new lineup that I would show people.
I would probably go with Jaywalker. Jaywalker's actually a pretty fun game. It's very easy to get into. It's like, I know, like with Fragments and with Robo Raid, there's a lot of setup that you have to do before you can even start playing. But with Jaywalker, you just like open the app, you adjust the height of the hologram, and then you're in. You know, you play and you can run back and forth, and it's a very like we've been talking about, a unique experience that you can only get on the HoloLens, but it's also very quick to set up, very seamless.
Yeah.
I'd also show them some like practical applications, like when you did your video on the mixed reality office space. Like, I don't know, like if you would show them that or just explain it to them, but the practical uses of the HoloLens of mixed reality, I think that's something that I would introduce.
That's a good point. We don't really capitalize on that very much. We've kind of gotten more apps. We haven't done as many HoloLens daily videos. Maybe that'll be something good for us to get into now that we have more experience using the HoloLens and stuff. And there's a lot more apps widely available. Is the everyday applications of the HoloLens. You know, we haven't really focused on that much, but there's so many. You know, we've kind of skipped over a lot of the new apps that have come out just for the fact that they're only like, you'd only show them for a minute, but to some people they could use that app every day as an application. You know, kind of like Holo Diamonds, you know, maybe a little bit different than a Holo Diamonds app, but you know, those style of apps, we haven't shown them very much. That's a good point.
HoloLens Real Estate is also pretty dang cool. The only issue would be, you know, having a location big enough to actually appreciate and showcase just how big the hologram of the house is. But, you know, even me, you know, I've been on the HoloLens for quite a bit, and seeing that, being able to stand about 25-50 feet away from the hologram and still being able to just look straight up and see this hologram looming over me, that was a very unique experience that would be worth sharing with somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good pretty mind-blowing one. So what do you guys think of the response to our We Need Help video so far? So we've seen a lot of second HoloLenses, we've seen a lot of meta. It's surprisingly pretty equal between everything. That's what really surprised me. I thought everybody was either going to say Meta, ODG, or the HoloLens, but it's really widespread. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's really widespread. I'm myself personally, I'm leaning towards a second HoloLens just because it leads to the multiplayer. It will be greater content for our YouTube channel, and we'll be able to do more things with it, other than just comparing devices and whatnot, like a lot of the YouTube commenters have said. Although it would be nice to get content out for different devices as well, because obviously we're not finding that much.
One thing that I thought, yeah, Eric, it surprised me as well, just how many different people gave so many different suggestions, like the Meta and the HoloLens. What was the other one? The ODJ? ODG. Yeah, that one. I hadn't even heard of that one. I had to look up that one. But yeah, they give a ton of different suggestions, which surprised me that like people wanted to see content from many different and
they made pretty good cases for each device. And I see what you're saying. Like we're pretty HoloLens specific, and it's surprising to see that our people really want varied content, which we would like to give varied content. I was so surprised though, man. I thought everybody was gonna just say a second HoloLens or Meta. I honestly thought everybody's gonna go for Meta, but people provided some really good points and strong points to go to each one, which is very helpful. Ravi asks, when will you buy the Meta? First off, the Meta 2 is not released till the end of this summer, so we couldn't even get one right now if we wanted to. We could get on the waiting list, but that's the third time we've been asked that just today is when we'll get the Meta. So I don't know, guys. I know we have our hearts set on a second HoloLens, but I mean, we're getting asked about a Meta constantly. What are you guys' thoughts on the Meta?
I haven't heard too much about the Meta, but I feel like if we were to buy a Meta, it'd be a little bit superfluous to just buy the old Meta when in like a matter of months, weeks at that, the Meta 2 is going to come out. So if we get the Meta, we're going to wait a while.
But what about you, Austin? What are your thoughts on picking up a Meta over something else? Well, maybe not just getting one in general.
I mean, what I've seen of the Meta, it has some really cool features, like I think like the enhanced gestures that kind of beats the HoloLens, but also I've heard that it's kind of jumpy and glitchy as an OS, and to me it doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing as the HoloLens. But hey, I'm willing to try anything. But I mean, we'll have to do all the same experiments that we've done with the HoloLens with the Meta, which would be kind of fun, and just compare them. I think that'd be interesting as well.
That would be really interesting, and comparison videos would be fun. And I think there's no Meta content like Meta 1. There's like nobody. I don't know if there was a limited run of the Meta 1 or what went wrong with it, but there's no content of it.
Can you record? Do you know, like through the Meta?
Yes, it has an onboard camera, so that is good. That's one of my biggest holdbacks about the $400 devices, the Windows holographic devices, is they haven't announced about onboard cameras. But I guess we would have to do some sort of pass through, like we do with capture card. We probably have to use some sort of capture card, I would think, if we use that, which wouldn't be a big deal because we have one. I wonder if our capture card would work on that. Interesting. So, but we have to have a powerful PC. I think our computers should be able to run the Meta pretty just fine. I don't know. I'm just interested. People kept saying the ODG because it was it's not tethered, whereas the Meta is tethered. Do you think that even though it's tethered, it'd still be worth picking up?
Maybe. I feel like it could possibly be more like just like quicker processing speeds and stuff like that. Maybe you wouldn't have to worry about battery life for one. I remember on some of our filming nights, like that does hinder us a little bit with the HoloLens battery life. But at the same time, having it be tethered, like you can't walk around all the time. Like for example, I feel like with the Meta, you'd have a harder time playing Galaxia, or like you couldn't play Jaywalker, or Robo Raid. You'd trip or wrap yourself up or destroy your computer. So obviously the experience would have to be different. I'm just wondering what they're doing to make Meta worth it.
That's a really good point. And I guess we can't really because I have the same exact thoughts. It's like, what's their angle here? What's Meta's angle? What are they trying to accomplish? Because they have to fit something that the HoloLens isn't already doing. Maybe that $2,000 less price point is what they're doing, but at the same time,
it'll get there once the consumer version's out. Like, it'll be not $3,000.
Yeah, that's a good point. But that's like 3 years away. So I mean, that's like 2 or 3 years of profit they could make. I just wondering what their angle is, and I guess probably the best way to do that would probably be to get one, and to get our own views on it, and to get part of the community, kind of like we are with the HoloLens. Because I don't know about you guys, but at least since I've become part of the HoloLens community, I've got a lot different perspective on MR and AR and a lot of things in general. It'd be really interesting to become part of that community and see what they think. Have you guys' opinions changed at all since you guys have become part of the community and stuff?
Changed in what way?
Like, I don't know. Well, you didn't know it existed, first of all. But when you tried it out...
That's a pretty big change.
Yeah, that's true. Like, going from not having an opinion to having an opinion. Thank you, Austin. But, yeah, at first, it was just kind of just like that first effect, of seeing it just like, wow, this is going to be so cool in the future. And, not realizing that this is what's going on around me now. Like, this is a very real thing. However, there are issues with the HoloLens. The HoloLens isn't perfect. And that's kind of how my opinion changed a little bit. It went from like being like really astounded by it to kind of realizing, yes, it has flaws. However, at the same time, it's still by far the most streamlined and has the biggest app base for it out of all the others. So even though, the HoloLens isn't perfect, the HoloLens, I feel like the HoloLens is still by far probably one of the biggest contenders out there right now.
So in a really roundabout way to answer your question, Ravi, we don't know when we'll buy the Meta. We don't know if we will buy one. Everybody keeps assuming that we will, so we probably should, just because the fact that everybody expects it. And, we already kind of own the HoloLens sphere, at least for what we do. Might as well expand that out so we own all of them. I don't know. So to answer your question, maybe soon, maybe never.
So if anyone works for Meta out there, the community has
the best way.
Spoken, and they would want a Meta.
Ravi, that's the best way for us, because like we're kind of poor, we do everything ourselves out of our own pockets, and so the answer to the question is, when will you buy the Meta? Hopefully we'll never have to buy it. Hopefully our community will raise enough stink that Meta realizes that it'd be beneficial to give us one. So if you want to see Meta content, leave comments on our channels, tweet Meta, do whatever you guys have to do to hopefully let us get one, because that's one of the biggest reasons. I mean, we would have every single device right now if our pocketbooks would allow it, wouldn't we, boys?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's why we raised that's why I made a whole video about it, is because like we don't have much money. We were trying to figure out the best way to spend it for our creators. So I mean, because we're really here for our not for our creators, for our viewers. We're here for our viewers. So if you guys want stuff, go to us, and then also go to whoever you guys want. If Meta can be put Windows in that, then all apps on HoloLens could be ran on Meta. Yes, we probably won't see cross-platform for a while because Meta has their own entire SDK and everything like that. But hopefully, that kind of akins back to our first conversation about the shared experience. Anyways, I guess we've been going for about hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. Any closing words, boys? Let's just burn through those last news stories that we missed real quick, shall we?
Company called Varjo. It's spelled Varjo, and they are, can't scroll when I push control. They are a company that are making virtual reality like really high resolution. Like in the article, it says that it surpasses what Magic Leap has shown. And they use the Oculus Rift. They've have a special hack. They didn't go much into detail with it, and they use sort of like the concept of faux vetted rendering, which is when you focus on an object in your virtual reality, it's super high quality and high definition, but everything else around it is kind of blurred, and it helps with GPU speeds, helps it so it can process and have this high of quality holograms, holograms in where you're looking, if that makes sense.
So I think is this the video that we watched before?
That
you showed me before the podcast?
Yeah.
So yeah, that seems pretty cool, and I think that's kind of I think that's one of the things the HoloLens, when the other devices are going to come out, I think that's one of the areas that it's going to show that the HoloLens is lacking the most, don't you think? Because both Magic Leap and a lot of the other devices have rumored that they're going to have like blurring effects or focus effects. When you're looking at a hologram, everything else will kind of be blurred around it, or as you get closer to a hologram, it becomes more in focus and such like that. Where the HoloLens doesn't have that, and maybe they could patch that in software, but I bet there's some hardware issues probably there with it. And I think that is where the HoloLens is going to start showing its age the most. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, I agree, because this is really revolutionary idea. This feature, not only does it give it a more realistic effect, it also makes it easier on the device to process things and to show them. So, this is obviously very crucial, and, I would hope that the Generation 3 HoloLens has something similar to this.
Yeah, it definitely will. If they release it and it proves to be beneficial, it'll definitely have that. I think that's a really good point for HoloLens. One of the reasons they're going to be waiting is they're waiting for everybody else to release their devices, see what they do, see how it does, and then they're going to come out with theirs, and it's going to be this kind of like perfect conglomerate of everything, So that's really exciting. What are some of the other news stories? Or is that all of them?
I believe that's all of them.
Yeah, that sums it up, what we've had to say.
Sums up our week in review. Well, okay, I guess we can kind of get geared up to closing down. Any closing words? Let's go ahead and read through the comments. Ravi stopped in. Some other people stopped in. It was kind of a good time. All right, so I guess let me find the song that I like to use for the outro. All right, here we go. All right. Well, that is our wrap-up of podcast episode 16. I would like to say thank you to Austin and Alex for joining us this week. That was a pretty good podcast, guys? Don't you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed our topics that we discussed.
Oh, yeah, I agree. We had, a lot of good stuff to talk about, a couple of debates and some shots fired, but it was a pretty enjoyable podcast. I had fun. So thanks to all you listeners out there. Thanks to your support. Love you guys.
We missed one thing. I don't know if I can do the outro yet. We missed one thing. We didn't have our Magic Leap drama section. Can you guys believe Magic Leap went a whole week without any sort of drama?
Oh, shoot. Guess we'll have to dedicate a small portion of next podcast to dig up some more dirt.
I mean, they tweeted about Father's Day and all those great fathers out there.
Oh, so sweet. Are they going to only give the Magic Leap to fathers now and exclusively not to mothers or something?
I don't know. I think they tweeted on Mother's Day, too.
Oh, okay. They're not being exclusive to just famous and rich people. Well, I guess we just had to drop a little bit of fun in there. So I guess this has been the Holo Herald Podcast, episode 16. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you guys for stopping by. Leave a like, leave a comment if you guys enjoyed anything. It's been a really great podcast. Podcast 16, signing off. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.